Hey, amazing ladies, are you ready to level up your life in 2025? I am truly excited to announce my new mastermind, Live, Love, and Thrive, an opportunity for you to not only level up your life or business, start a new business or passion project, and connect to amazing women who will support you and encourage you to live the life of your dreams. Meet other incredible female entrepreneurs and business owners, gain insight on new opportunities to grow your business, connect and network, and grow beyond anything you thought was possible. If you are truly ready to make 2025 the best year of your life, it's time to live, love, and thrive together. Reach out to me on social media or my website at jenmentesana.com to explore this very special, exclusive, and carefully curated mastermind opportunity. Welcome to Where Passion Meets Purpose. I'm your host, Jen Mentesana. On this show, we help busy moms and entrepreneurs find more passion and purpose in their daily lives through inspiring stories and interviews. Welcome back, everyone, to Where Passion Meets Purpose. I am so excited for you guys to meet our next guest. Dawn Dalby is here. She is a certified financial planner. She is I'm going to check my notes. She is a BNA, which is a behavioral financial advisory. She is a fiduciary, which she's going to explain a little bit about what that is, because I didn't know until I started reading her book, and she was able to explain it in such a clear way. And she is the author of this incredible book I am reading called Live Wealthy. See how that's spelled? Wealthy. It's an incredible book, and I suggest all of you pick it up. I'm going to actually announce on my Instagram that I'm going to donate or give one of her books to the first person who shares the post about our episode. They are going to get a free book in the mail from me because I just value this book, and all of the contents of the book and what she is teaching is so important that I want everyone to go out and pick up a copy if you don't get to win one from me. So Dawn, without further ado, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for being here.
I'm so excited, Jennifer. It's going to be an authentic, real conversation. I want listeners to just know that both Jennifer and I have probably been in your shoes. We've experienced what you've experienced, and we're here to just share our wisdom through our time and energy. And again, we take our pain, which becomes our passion, and turn that into purpose in life. And it's just an honor to be able to talk real money talk with you today.
Oh, I love it. And you know, we were just talking off line before we hit record about how important this topic is for everyone, not just women, not just entrepreneurs, and not just people who are stepping into maybe a role of a new business, but really anyone to understand their relationship with money and why they make the choices that they do when it comes to spending, saving, you name it. And I am one who, I was just saying, really needed this book at this time in my life as I step into entrepreneurship in a whole new way, to understand more about how I want to spend my money, what my values are, how I want to choose to save and invest and spend. And there's so much behavior that goes behind it. But before we kind of get into that topic, I'd love to have you explain a little bit to your listeners, because I loved your story about your mom and kind of how you first understood your behaviors around money and her behaviors around money, and how that impacted you in terms of how you chose to spend money throughout your life. So if you don't mind sharing a little bit about that story first, that would be awesome.
Absolutely. We're all a product of our childhood, and I had two incredible parents, but had some conflicting, their behaviors were conflicting in how I viewed money. I heard a lot of, we can't afford this, we can't do this. And my mom had so much anxiety around money. She owned her own business, but all I heard every single day was, my business is about to go under. And I had a father who loved money, and he loved to hoard, I wouldn't say hoard it, but he just didn't like to spend it. Like, he still doesn't. He's 82 today. I'm like, Dad, your birthday, you don't need a Costco hot dog for your birthday. You can have something else, but he just doesn't like to spend money, and that's okay. But this conflicting, growing up with this conflicting views on money was really, really hard on me. And then, I moved to I moved from a small town in Wisconsin to Minneapolis, Minnesota. And I remember looking at all these big houses. I'm like, wait a second. Like I went from 2,000 person town to this big city. And I'm like, how do people live? Like, how do we figure this out? Because it's not like, it doesn't have to be so, money doesn't have to be so negative. Because if other people can figure it out, so can you. And I remember telling myself that at an early age of 18. But I just realized too, I'm a daughter. My mom, I was raised, she loved me completely, but she was an alcoholic. And so she not only had this anxiety, but I believed like she didn't have the money because she didn't have the internal worth. Like she didn't ever think she was enough. And so I was raised with all this love. But I remember even in high school, like I never thought I was enough as a human being until people liked me. And so I didn't like myself. And I was just modeling my mom's behavior. Some of it's genetic, like it's complex, right? But like I was class president, I was student council president, head cheerleader, I was state champion, I was homecoming queen. I was all of these things because I needed it so much to feel good inside. And it was a horrible time. And I didn't realize that when I was in high school, but I was modeling my mom's behavior and she ended up passing away and dying of heart failure because of, it comes down to alcohol, being an alcoholic, and it ruined her organs. And obviously the alcohol was just a Band-Aid. It was just a Band-Aid to her not thinking she was enough. And so I inherited that. And then going into financial planning at age 30 and in a male dominated world, I was one of the minorities in there. And I'm telling you, I was constantly feeling like I wasn't enough in that environment too. So through 30 years of personal development and money development, I've arrived at this beautiful place of enoughness and contentment and joy and peace and all of the things. Now, my life's not perfect, just like we all know. None of our lives are perfect, but I'm at this place now in my mid 50s where it just feels so good. And you need both. You need the technical money advice. I haven't ever met a woman that has come into my office are like, yeah, I love to talk about money. So you're not alone, Jennifer. But we need to understand the technical advice around money. And we also need to understand our emotional relationship with money. When you combine those two, that's when life can get pretty exciting, where you're empowered to be the best version of yourself.
That's so amazing. And there's so much there that you just shared that I'd love to unpack. But we'll go back to some of it for sure throughout this conversation, because all of your experiences, all the stuff that you spoke about, not being enough and needing to fulfill it in other ways, external things like, being an athlete and being a homecoming queen and being the class president and all those things. I can relate to so many of those things that you just said. And so many of our listeners I know can. There's so much there. But getting back to kind of being in this place now where you're able to have this relationship with money that's positive and you are enough and your worth and all of those things. Talk a little bit about how your life is different now. I'd love for our listeners to kind of hear maybe all of the work that you did and led up to this moment. And then we'll kind of dive back into how to get there.
Oh,
but
I
first
love
off,
that.
let's talk about, where you are now and how you feel like you've really come into your own with your relationship with money.
That is a fantastic question. I finally got to a point through so much work. And again, I don't believe you ever arrive at perfection. I mean, we can't on this planet. And do I still worry about money and think about it? Sure. Do I still sometimes feel yucky about myself? Sure. However, it's like 5% of the time. 95% of the time, I feel really good. I want to have fun. I'm just authentic myself. And for me, it's almost now, because I still see some clients. Yeah, I own a wealth advisory firm and there's 10 of us in that firm, and we do financial planning. We do our clients' taxes. We do all this stuff. So I still get one-on-one with clients, but it's this really interesting place of just constantly feeling so good inside that you're serving other people all the time. You're not focused on yourself. Like you're just in this really good space. I'm in a good space with my marriage. I married my high school sweetheart. We've been together for 37 years and it's been hell for him and me. Like we are opposites. It's been so hard. But when you really dive deep into yourself, you become this better version where you serve other people. And I think that's the day to day that I'm in now, where I don't have this fear about money. I just have this still curiosity of how I can make, I'm constantly growing. Like I'll never stop growing until I pass away. And I'm going to be here into the hundreds. I just know it. Yeah. But it's like, I just know that like, what else am I learning about myself spiritually, emotionally, physically, mentally? Like it's a constant growth, and it's a curiosity versus I got to grow because I need more money. I got to do this because I'm short, and I say that with being humble, because I know all of the listeners here might be just starting a business, might be just like breaking away from corporate America and going, yeah, great, Dawn, but oh my gosh, like I am stressed. Well, I'm telling you that if you are stressed financially and you're worried about even making ends meet or how you're going to afford for the kids to do their sports, they're all the things, just know that's the place where you need to focus in on, is that stressful area. And that is the level of where you can continue to grow down that path. Because if I can do it, I'm not I don't have any magical genes, I wasn't born into a rich family. I like any of that. It's just the constant work. And I would just say, work on yourself without being led by fear. And like I used to call myself fearfully driven. Now I'm just driven out of curiosity. And so anytime, I don't care if you're starting over at age 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 80, it doesn't matter. It's just like the more you learn about yourself and how to deal with your self-esteem and your fear and just constantly work on that, I'm telling you, I'm promising you the wealth will follow. So you need that. You need, again, that inner wealth work and the external wealth work. And we can talk about any of that today because I can do both. But it's both of those combined that you get to this place of, like, I feel pretty good.
Absolutely. And you just hit the nail on the head, basically, of all the things that I'm constantly kind of expressing myself, is that first you have to do the inner growth and the part of yourself that knows that you're on a path to where your purpose lies, that gives you joy. And you're not just about chasing the money. I mean, I'm writing a book right now. The first half of the book is all about how my purpose was about chasing money and maintaining a certain level of financial freedom in order to survive. And that ignored my whole purpose in life. And so if you're constantly chasing, you will always be chasing, right? Mm-hmm. But if you get in alignment with your who you are and who your core, what your core values are and what your real purpose is in this life and what gives you joy, and you talk about giving back to your clients and really growing and learning beyond just yourself, that's where you really start to hone in on the real growth that then opens up the world for you to make more money. And so it's this kind of perfect alignment between those two worlds is where your relationship with money really changes. And when things start to happen for you and not because you're trying so hard to make them happen.
Right.
So I think that's the real, gift. And it's about, how do we get there? How do we get to that place where we no longer allow money to control us, but we allow ourselves to grow enough to trust the process enough to be in a place to receive?
Mm-hmm. And I think that the answer to that question is pretty simple, yet it's not easy, but it's profound. And I teach women all across the globe to earn from their strengths and spend from their values.
Oh, love that.
So you earn your income from your strengths. Most of us know what our strengths are. If not, go do the Strengths Finder, the Gallup, it's the best $30 you can spend, whatever the dollar amount is now. But it's not just knowing your strengths, but it's living them out in your income journey. For myself as a financial advisor, one-on-one was good. And I made great money doing it. And I did it for 20 plus years. And I still do it. I'm in 25 years into the business. But I remember going to my lane is more educating more women and like breaking down the anxiety and the fear. And like if I can do it, everyone else can do it too. And so it's like for me to operate in that lane of I wanting to help more people, I can't just sit with one-on-one. So I was like, I did the strengths finder. And then when I really honed in on like my strengths, I'm like, ooh, I just need to take a little bit different perspective on how I'm operating. So now I spend at least 80% of my time every single day when I'm earning an income in alignment with my strengths. Now, do I still do stuff that I hate? Sure. 20% of the time. We all do, right? So I earn my income in alignment with my strengths. So not only am I happier, but your strengths are things that you're naturally good at. You're going to earn more money doing those things. So it's about going deep and narrow in your strengths. And then you spend your money in alignment with your core values. And here's what I want to hone in on. Let's say you are broke or you feel broke. And you're just starting over and you're just like getting into your passion and you're turning that into your purpose. And you're like, yeah, Dawn, I get it. But I'm like, I still feel like we're trying to keep up all the time because life is expensive. And I don't want to negate that because it is. The cool thing is that when you get in alignment with those values, like not just know your top core values, but you start living them out at least 80% of the time. And with 80% of your money, then you're like, you know what? I was broke before because I was spending my money on all of the stuff that didn't matter. I was trying to keep up with the neighbor, or I was spending money that really didn't like provide me value. And so I always have people look at how they're spending their money. And, it's not 80% of your money, but I say 20% of your net income after taxes and saving income, you should be able to spend on your core values. Like, what are the things that matter most in your life? And what you'll realize is that when you get to a point of spending on your core values, you feel free. You don't feel broke. You don't feel like you're not having enough. You don't give a about what your neighbor's new car is. Like you don't, if that's not your value, you just don't care when you get in this proper alignment. And it's a really beautiful place to be. And I believe that even if you're starting a new business or you're a newly entrepreneur or you're a small business owner, you can still get to that today. And it's about prioritizing your core values. It's also about prioritizing and making sure you're not overpaying the things that you're just wasting your money on too, which are taxes, insurance is like, we need insurance, right? We need to pay our taxes, but it's tightening up those non-core value expenses that we have too. You'll actually can get to a place of feeling free with your money, even when the money's quite not there yet.
Yes, and you touched on the taxes, which I definitely want to delve into this because I was recently on one of your lives that you did.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and it was so good. And within that 20 minutes, I learned so much about ways to spend in your taxes where you're wasting money that could be going to something else, like putting into your business or whatever, that are still, you're paying your fair share. And you mentioned that, but it's areas where you can utilize your business or other things that you're doing to get tax breaks. And I was so unaware of that. And I was just on a walk with a girlfriend talking about this with her. She's in real estate, and she doesn't even realize all the things that she could be saving on in her taxes. And so we started talking. I said, well, you're going to listen to this episode because Dawn's going to give you a lot of tips and tricks about taxes. But before we dive into that, I just want to ask you one question about the values piece, because you went into that, and I have to admit, I spent a good 20 minutes going through that values exercise. And I do a lot of values exercises for my clients as well. But that one in particular, you forced me to pick only 5. That was really hard. And I want everyone who's listening to pick up her book, if you don't get it from me, and do the values exercise at the beginning of the book and really force yourself to pick your top 5 values, because it makes it really clear on, especially in your place in your life where you might have to cut back right now. You're starting a new business. You can't afford to spend all the money in all the places that you've been doing it that don't align with your values. Get really clear on what those top 5 values are for you, and it will be really obvious right away where you spend your money. It is so helpful. And because I was like, no, I'm this, I have this value, and I did. I had like, I don't know,
100
15 out of the 20.
Mhm.
And I was like, I don't know how to narrow this down, but when you really force yourself to do it, you realize that all the things, like one of my top values was relationships. The other one was authenticity. The other one, and those were all things that were aligned with my business. And I'm like, yes, this is where my money needs to be going right now. Do I really need that new pair of shoes? No, I don't. I don't need the new
Mhm.
pair of shoes right now. I'm going to spend it on XYZ for my business or my relationships or spending more time with my husband or whatever it is. So that piece of it is so important. And the fact that you really get clear with your clients and the readers of your book or your show on making sure you're aligning your choices to your values and how you spend your money and save your money, it's so important.
It's so important. And what most people do is they like, yeah, I know what I value, but it's the meaning behind, like you just said, Jennifer, it's the meaning behind those values. And most of us share like the top, like three, maybe we all share similar, like three. I've seen it with my clients. A lot of times it's spirituality or relationships or family or health, right? Because if we don't have that, we kind of don't have our life. So a lot of times we share those top three. But then there's like that number 4 and 5. It's like your values are things you don't want to do life without. Like you'd rather be dead than to live life without these values. So it makes you think, right? And so like if you get to number 4 and 5 and you're like, you start to think. And then for me, it was like, oh, my husband's number 4 and 5 value is very different than mine. And that's why we argue all the time. And it was really, really interesting. But you also have to recognize too, if you're in a marriage, your values are like, you can't take these away from someone. So if your wife values X, you got to respect that value and you have to compromise on that value and you have to work together if you're going to stay together. And I think that's super important. And then when you get down to the money side of it again, right? So it's like, what value costs money? What value helps you make money? And what value is how you want to spend your time? And it's about, coming together with those core values. So 20% of your real net income between your spouse and you can spend guilt free on those things. And sometimes it's in your business, right? But it's like spending money on the business, the authenticity, the relationships, all that kind of stuff. But what I encourage people to do is even think more is like, peel that value back. Like, what is the meaning behind the meaning behind the meaning? So once your business gets up and running, you can still spend your time and money on those values because they do take on different meanings and what's really important to you. But that's how you arrive at this satisfaction that we are all striving for in life, right? The money's
Absolutely.
just the tool. The
Yep.
money's just the tool to give us our life. And so it's making sure we're in alignment with that tool.
I
But the
think
core
that's a big
values,
part of it
so
too.
important.
It's so important. And I think that's a big part of it too, is realizing that money is just the tool to the life that you want to have. And once you stop looking at money as this big overwhelming thing that controls your life and you
Mhm.
start looking at it as the money works for you, not the other way around, it really does shift your perspective. There's that mindset piece going into it. If you say everything starts with the mindset. So before I move on, because I do want to talk to you about the taxes, I just have to say, you brought up about relationships and your values in your marriage, and this is a big one for my husband and I, because we do share a lot of the same values, but we share a lot of different values in how we want to spend our money, which is common in relationships.
Mhm.
And I'm just sitting here thinking, this would save couples a lot of money in therapy, just doing this exercise, right?
Yes.
Just sitting down and talking about what your values are. And because my husband and I have a lot of similar ones around family and entertaining and food and family and events in the home. And so our home was a priority to us, and where we live and whether or not we can entertain in our home, that was a big value. And so that was a really easy decision for us. But other things like, cars or travel or whatever, like we have to, talk about what that looks like, right? Do we spend 20% of our money in the kids' sports and that priority, or do we go on trips, or what does that look like? So narrowing all that stuff down and really sitting down with your spouse and figuring that out with someone like a financial advisor or Dawn, and saying, these are the places that we want to spend our money because they align with our core values, is probably the way that you're going to alleviate a lot of arguments about money.
Well, absolutely. And when I went through marriage counseling, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, we marry opposite. We do because we innately want to become whole. So we're looking for people that are opposite of us to make us complete. So that means that core values number 4 and 5 aren't always the same. And so it's
Right.
like, how do you respectfully negotiate those and get on the same page and not have to hide the spending but feel free? Like, like I believe everyone, it's their birthright to be able to go buy the shoes or the purse or, get to a point where you can do that if it's in alignment with the values. And you don't have to like feel guilty about it either, or have that argument with your spouse or try to hide it like we all used to do when had no money and we were buying the wrong things.
100%. And that topic is so good. Okay, so we're going to touch on that again, but I do want to talk about the taxes real quick because, by the time the show airs in the next couple of weeks, we're knee deep in tax season. And before you've met with your accountant and you've gone through everything, what are some tips and tricks that you could share with entrepreneurs, even with people who may be just thinking about starting out a business? Like, what are the ways that you can utilize tax breaks and the tax codes to help you?
Yeah, there's the couple of them that are my favorite. First and foremost, I think a lot of newly entrepreneurs or small business owners, we forget to save for our future. When you save money in a tax deferred account, you're saving taxes today. So when you put money away for tomorrow, you actually get a tax break today. And a lot of times it's 30+%. So that's a big deal. There's a health savings account. Some newly entrepreneurs don't have like medical insurance again through their employer, and they have a high deductible plan. And anytime you have a high deductible plan, you could be putting away $8,000-$9,000 into a health savings account, and it's not a use it or lose it. You can put it in there today, take it out tomorrow, and then you got the tax break. Those health savings account can be used for acupuncture, massages with proper documentation, memberships, health memberships, like so many different things, mental health counseling, like there's so much. So like figuring out first and foremost, where can you save money by putting money away into a tax deferred plan? And then the things that move the needle the most are like, do you hire your kids? Yes, you do. You make them work for you. And how much can you pay them? That's based upon your expenses with them. Your kids are expensive. I'm not even going to tell you what I spent on my college kid last year, and she's in big trouble right now and kind of grounded with me. She has a spending plan that wasn't in alignment with what I had for her. So she is paying me back for some money. But regardless of that, it's making sure that your kids are expensive. So how do we put them on payroll, have them legitimately work and get a tax break on that? There's something called the Augusta rule. We're not going to go into the details of that, but most people don't know about that. Like you can save tens of thousands of dollars by hosting events in your house that you could host at a hotel, but host it in your house instead and then get a tax break on that. It actually goes, the tax breaks go on and on and on. And I love to, you think taxes are the most boring topic in the planet, and they are, but I love them because it has given me more money. I have been the breadwinner for many years, the only one making an income. My core value is excitement. That means big lifestyle. Like I had to figure out how to get more money in my pocket. And sometimes you can only earn so much, right? You're doing all the things, but the income coming in can be limited sometimes. So you have to figure out other ways to put more money back in your pocket. And taxes are a huge opportunity where you learn. And it's not about what's write-offable. You guys, we have Chat GPT. You can ask Chat anything. It's about incorporating that and then doing the work that needs to be done to set up the bank accounts, to set up the investment accounts, to do the work. But there's so much opportunity. Even, if your audience is just starting out on a business, like you can claim business losses, right? You can claim 20%, but some of you can claim 20% of your business net income just because you qualify because your income's lower. Like don't do your taxes yourself. Pay a professional, a CPA, to get your taxes done, because what you pay that CPA will pay for itself over and over and over again in the tax savings that is offered to you by just being in the know.
Yeah, and so huge. And this will be my first year because I've always, as an entrepreneur, done my taxes with my husband through our business. And so he's kind of taken the lead on that. And this is my first year of my own business that I'm going to be paying my own taxes for my business and going through this process with an accountant. So I'm like a CPA. So I'm like, okay, I want to be educated on all this stuff because, does every CPA know all these tax codes and little, like the Augusta rule and all these things? Or is that something that you really need to be a specialist in to understand?
Yeah, I think what you need to do is have, and it's not just because we're financial advisors, but I do believe you need a financial advisor in your back pocket. And here's why. is the reality of how tax system works. Not every CPA knows all the rules, but I'm going to just be blunt. We're authentic here, right?
Yes.
So tax professionals love to work with W-2 employees because it's simple, straightforward. The CPAs get paid the same for doing less work, right? They're exchanging their time, the CPA's time, for money. They love straightforward tax returns. Then you have people like us that are like, I want to do boom, 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 boom. I want this strategy. I want to write off all this kind of stuff. And CPAs don't necessarily want to work with people like us because they're just like, oh, you're too much work. You want all this strategy. And I can't charge you enough for my time, right? So a lot of CPAs get lazy and they don't do the strategy. They're just doing the reactive, oh yeah, save in a retirement account, let's call it a day. So you have to be dangerous enough yourself or have this fiduciary that's going to work on your behalf. So then you can like understand, here's how it works in my world. It's like, I do all the work, right? I do all of the spreadsheeting and I give it to my CPA and I'm like, here's what I'm taking. I'm doing, so it's not, they're not educating me. I'm just sending them my spreadsheet and like, this is my write-off and this is what I'm taking. So it does rely on you. It does land on you or a trusted fiduciary, and then get that in that right hands of a CPA. But that's the reality of how tax professionals work. And so it is what it is, but that's.
And will you clarify a little bit, because I really wasn't clear on the differentiation of a fiduciary and what that responsibility is, because I want our listeners to really understand that.
Yeah. So a lot of people out there call themselves financial advisors and that they're fiduciaries. Even that word gets pushed around, I think, too fluently. But a fiduciary is it's kind of like taking the oath where they have to give you, like a financial advisor, a fiduciary financial advisor is in the business to give the client advice that's in their best interest. And the key word is best interest, and knowing the client so well that you have to give them the best answer, not an answer or advice that's just suitable. Like, for example, I could be on here saying it's suitable for you to invest in your money into an annuity. It's suitable. It could meet your goals and it's a suitable investment. Is it the best investment? Well, considering an advisor would probably get 5 to 15% commission on that and their investments wouldn't grow as much. Is it the right advice? Is it the right answer? No. And so the fiduciary needs to know their client so well that they're giving the best solution. So it's kind of fun where you sit on, it's almost like a CFO of the household where you sit on the same side of the table and work in tandem with the clients versus trying to sell them an investment product and going, yeah, this is good. It's just not the best. And a fiduciary means they have to give you the best advice for you.
Right. That's so helpful, because I wasn't aware of that. And I'm sure, and I hope it's not only me, that we have audience that doesn't understand the differentiation between the two.
Well, and you know what? Like I said, people call themselves a couple years ago. This woman's like, I'm a fiduciary. I'm like, you are? That's great. Tell me what your business model is. Is it a financial plan, or like, how do you like fee only? Because that's what fiduciaries are. Well, no, I sell insurance. I'm like, well, how much is your revenue in your business tied to your insurance products? Well, 50%. So you're not really a fiduciary because you're making money through the insurance product. That's not honest. That's not ethical. Is insurance right? Sure. But 50% of your business, right? So, anytime you're going to get help, tax help from a fiduciary, ask them, how are you compensated? Like, where do you make your money? Like, have that real, authentic conversation so you know how people get paid.
Absolutely. And I'll just say one last thing on this topic. A few years ago, or maybe even more than that, when my husband and I first started out with our business, we were both, W-2 employees coming from corporate America, and we switched to self-employed. I became a coach. He became a restaurateur, and then we ran this business together. And we went from, paychecks and income and normal, income, what do you call that? Consistency to all over the place. And then it became this like scary thing to look at our numbers every year. And I think that the best thing that you can do is is just put everything out on the table. Go talk to somebody who understands finances, like a fiduciary, like someone like Dawn, and really get clear on what your money situation is so that you're not living in the dark or hiding or pretending that what your situation is, because there's always an answer. Right. And I think that's the thing. If people don't face it, sometimes when they're scared to look at finances, they don't face it, then it just becomes this big, ugly, scary thing over here that you don't want to deal with. And that makes the situation worse. Right.
Yes. And you know what else is really cool? Like people in your situation, like you had the W-2 income, you had the 401ks, you had all the things, and then you moved to 1099 income. Well, when you sit down, like this is like the perfect scenario, because when you sit down with an advisor, now the right advisor, you know, you're paying fees in your 401, you're paying fees whether you're looking at it and it's a scary mountain over here or not. But when you sit down with a fiduciary wealth advisor, guess what? Those fees actually become transparent in our firm, and then they're a tax write-off too. So now you're paying for advice. You're paying maybe a fourth or half of what you were paying before because it's a tax write-off. And now you're not just getting money advice. Well, sometimes you're not even getting money advice in a 401k, right? But now you're getting tax advice, you're getting financial planning, you're getting all of the things. It's like a lot of times people like with the scary mouth, like they don't want to address it, but if they just address it, it's like you save money when you address it and you make more and you keep more. It's like this. So I talk a lot about it. Like we got to get the relationship better. Get rid of the fear because we tell ourselves lies because of what we believed our parents told us about money. We all know how limiting beliefs work, you know, and it's like, let's deal with that because you're wasting money whether you do something or not. So you have to figure out, you want to have more money, you waste less, you hire a professional.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, I have a question for you about, let's say you're someone who's in a place in life where you are comfortable, you're safe, you're fine, you're taking care of your kids, you're doing all the things. Maybe you want to start a business, or maybe you've just started a business, but you're looking to like level up your life. You're starting to say, okay, you know, I've been at this. I'm 20 years into being out of college, or 30 years, or whatever it is. And I'm looking to finally start to be able to enjoy my life and do the things that I really have worked hard to do my whole life. Is it a relationship? Is it getting clear with your values? Like, what is that point where you kind of shift from operating in a place of building to operating in a place of growing and really enjoying your life? I mean,
when the kids leave the house.
Yeah.
Seriously. There's sacrifice of parenting.
Yeah.
Right? So if you have kids, I've really felt it. I've been an empty nester for 2 years now. That's kind of when it like logically happens.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that,
let me ask you this to back up a little bit from there. So let's say you're someone who started a business and you know that you've got, 5 to 10 more years of parenting, but you're trying to set yourself up for that period of time when your kids are gone and you can finally like enjoy a little bit more financial freedom that you had when your kids were under your roof. Is there a good plan in place to set yourself up for that, so that you don't just wake up one day when the kids are out of the house and go, oh, now what?
Well, it's about having the plan before that happens. And a financial plan helps you make those really good decisions. And to me, I have found that it's the alignment of the spending and saving. Mm-hmm. And so in 25 years of business, through doing financial planning and really forcing people at first to save an X percentage of their gross income for their future, they never miss it. Ever. No one has ever come to me and said, oh, Dawn, that $500 a month you made me put away, like, I feel like I couldn't live this month. Never happens. Out of sight, out of mind. So I think what it is, I think it's actually easier than you think. It's literally just sitting down and having somebody create a financial plan that's going to tell you what to do, because financial planning can be overwhelming and there's a lot to it, but it's literally and when I say a financial plan, it's a software program that can allow you to see 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years ahead of the game. If you do this, this is what you're going to have in the future.
Mhm.
If you don't do this, this is what you're not going to have in the future. And you get that clarity and you get some certainty when you can see with a 99% probability where you're going to end up. And so I think, doing it 10 years before your kids leave the nest is really it's a perfect opportunic time to do that because you're in the know. It's about the alignment piece. And when you don't do that, then you feel guilty with spending or you oversave and then you're going to have too much money at the end and you're like, why did I do that? Like I want nothing more than for us to be able to take these family vacations and do, like, the kids under the household is 18 years. Like, it's 20 years. It's not a lot of time. And so, like, it's about the knowledge. You guys, power is in knowledge. And you don't have to love investing. You don't have to love taxes. What you have to love is your life. And when you love your life enough and your family, that's the financial plan that you put together to see in the future and go, oh, this is what I'm going to do. And you don't miss it.
Right. Right. It's so good. It's so important. And I somewhere along the line, someone said to me 10% of your income or whatever that number was. And I just started putting that away. And then, I'm the guilty one that will pull some out and go, oh, but I need to go on this trip or I need to do whatever. And it comes from that, but I try to do that with every, income, weekly or monthly or whatever it is, and set some money aside because you just never know. And the save for the rainy day is kind of a thing. It's necessary to have that bucket of money there if God forbid something does happen that goes unplanned. You have to have that. But it's also really about what you're talking about is setting yourself up for a future life that you want to have and live and really enjoy those years when your kids are out of the house and you get to focus on you again.
Well, and I just think that the reason why people don't face it is because they fear that they have to give up today, and you don't need to. Like when you know your core values, you have when you save in the right places, that just reduces your tax bill. It almost pays for half of the savings. Like, there's just so many strategies out there. It's like, oh my gosh, like, why didn't I start this at 20? Because we all know those 20-year-olds, they don't have the wisdom or experience yet, but they have time. And time is on their side. And so it's really making sure that you don't waste your time and just, there's nothing to be, it's just the only thing to be fearful is your own mind, right? It's the lies we tell ourselves.
Absolutely. And that's why what you do is so powerful, because you're bringing all of that mindset piece to this knowledge of how to spend and save, and set yourself up for a life that you are going to love and that you can love now and not just
now.
in the future,
exactly.
right?
That's
love
the biggest
now.
thing too.
So, I have a whole page of notes here that I was going to ask you, and I know we're running out of time. So what would be like your number one, if you could leave our listeners with anything when it comes to the relationship with money, or how to move forward from today into setting themselves up for success, what would you want to say to our audience?
It's probably what we already talked about. Commit right now a percentage of your income. It doesn't matter if you say 2, 5, 10, 30, it doesn't matter what percentage. Commit right now. You will never miss that money. That would be the number one thing. Number two, work with a tax professional. You need to minimize your taxes. The government makes it so difficult for us to understand it, to understand the tax code. That's why it's like, bleh, we rather throw up than deal with it. But I'm telling you, it'll give you more life. And three, hone in on that spending, those core value spending, because at the end of the day, this live well with your money is not necessarily about more. It's about the right money. And it's about having the right life that's in alignment with your strengths and your values. So live out those values, understand them. Like, that's where, when you start doing that, ladies, you're going to start dancing in the kitchen. And that's what I want for you. I want you to dance in the kitchen for no reason than to just be in a really good mood and enjoy the Tuesdays and the Wednesdays of life.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing, Dawn. Thank you. I love that you left us with that thought, because I can see myself, I can see all these ladies doing that. When you're living in your passion, your purpose, you're aligned with your finances and you're living wealthy, you're really, truly happy from the inside out. So thank you so much for being here. This has been an incredible conversation. I can't wait to have you on again because I have so much more that our audience is going to benefit from. But you guys can follow Dawn. I'll have all of the ways to contact her and follow her in the show notes. Be sure to pick up the book, Live Wealthy by Dawn Dalby. And until next time, we'll see you soon. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you again for listening to Where Passion Meets Purpose. If you're enjoying this show, please subscribe and download it so you don't miss an episode every single week. And if you think you have a friend who might benefit from listening, please share it with them as well. If you'd like to contact me, you can always reach me through email on my website at jenmentesana.com and my social media, Jen_Mentesana. And you can DM me there and I'll always respond, and we can connect about topics on the show or anything else you'd like to discuss. Thanks again for tuning in.